one watcher is me, if there's only one.
There we go. All right, we are live with the Meltdown Ags post-game show after some technical difficulties, which is fitting tonight, as the Aggies lose in spectacular, confusing, controversial fashion to LSU, 27-24, basically at the buzzer with a touchdown with 20 seconds to go. Gave LSU the win. We've got a lot to get to, Casey. I think you've got the link put out on Twitter for everyone so they could join us. But I think you wanted to start with something we said several weeks ago, which was even after the Alabama performance, based on what we saw the next couple of weeks, we were extremely concerned with quarterback play, and we thought it set up for a rough finish. And it certainly turned out that way. And I'll turn it over to you, but there were some reasons that we issued that warning, basically.
Well, yeah, because it's the same thing that we saw, against New Mexico, against Colorado, against Mississippi State, and I think everyone was ready to forgive all of that stuff after the Alabama game, and for good reason, right? We were all very excited, but we wanted to see us keep going and keep getting better, and Zach to keep eliminating the mistakes. And when we watched the Missouri games and the South Carolina games, we saw kind of a lot more of that, but getting away with it because you're so much better than those teams. And we said at the time, you know, okay, if you don't want to hear that criticism, then we don't want to hear it after Auburn or Ole Miss or the end of the season if this team's got a couple more losses. And so here we are now in the totality of the season. We're 8-4. And look, I love that Zach has stepped up. He didn't have a choice, right? But it is what it is, right? I think we saw all the same issues throughout the entire season. We saw all the same stuff tonight. I do think Zach had a good second half for the most part, but the team is gone as the quarterback is gone. The supporting cast hasn't helped him at times, and we've pointed that out. When we think he's played well and the supporting cast hasn't helped him out, we have said so, like against Auburn, and I'll say so in most of the second half tonight. But for the most part, it quarterback play hasn't been what we needed it to be for this season to go the way we wanted
Yeah,
to.
and look, I'm going to give a perfect example of this in this football game. There was a play. I actually think this is the beginning of the second half, if I remember right. Actually, I think I'm wrong. I think this was first half. There was a ball to Muhammad over the middle that, if had been a decent throw, would have
It was
been a
first
touchdown.
half.
Yeah,
Yep.
it would have been a touchdown.
And a throw on time.
Yes,
Like he stared that down. He was so wide open that Zach stared him down for a couple of beats and still nobody was around.
right.
Um,
And
and look,
instead we actually, I don't think did we end up getting a field goal out of the drive? I think we did,
yeah, we
but
did.
it bogged down. No, look, it's just the offensive inefficiency. Right, we're completing 50% of our passes in most of these games. It looks to me the run fits are off, right? Like getting the lineman in the right play doesn't look right.
Mm.
The timing of the snap looks bad. It looks like there's just no attention paid to that sort of thing. I see passes in the flat when there's two defenders in the flat. At times,
That
like
should never happen.
it just should never happen. And there's guys breaking open over the middle. And so, we don't get to see a lot of it on replay. But if you do pay attention and really study it and look at it, even in real time, but then go back to it later, there's just so much there. And it's just been the same story. Now, you were right. Zach played much better in the second half. I swear to God, it's like you have to separate the kid's shoulder before he starts getting it together or hurt him somehow. And then some other dudes let him down. But
Hmm.
the most frustrating part is that tonight was we thought we were following the same script, we're gonna the other team's begging us to come back on them,
Yeah.
and we hadn't been able to do it, and then we finally did it tonight, and then all hell broke loose in the last 2 minutes of the game, which we'll get to. Um, but I don't know what you think about this. I'm interested in what you think about this because I continue to see people complain about play call and that Jimbo needs to get an offensive coordinator and that he has to start calling better plays. And I just don't know what to think about that because, well, I will shut up. What do you think about that?
Look, here's what I think. I think that people are going to be saying that for Jimbo's entire tenure here, maybe. And we've said it before. Like, this is what you get with Jimbo. I've been frustrated with the play calling in certain instances, like tonight. Uh, you know what? Even tonight, less play calling and more personnel decision. But I'll come back to the 3rd and 2 on the final second to last drive. But I was more upset that Spiller was in the game than I was that we ran that bizarre boot to Zach's opposite side for some reason on 3rd and 2. But whatever. I think you had a great point earlier in the week about people falling in love with gimmicky offenses. Kind of a shot at Lane, I think. Am I right? A little bit. I think it's a little unfair to characterize those as gimmicky, or even like what Sark did last year at Alabama as gimmicky. Um,
I will tell you,
but
I was a little bit more about just the pure air raid. What I see with
okay,
Leach, right? Because that was the
sure,
game. People were calling it out.
yeah,
Oh, we've got to get more wide open.
yeah. Well, fine. But regardless, the point we've been trying to make all year is that dudes are open all the time. That Jimbo said it in the presser, and if you rewatch the game, he's right. The offense has an answer for everything. Dudes are running for this offense gets guys open. Now, sometimes the quarterback throws the coverage to the guy, right? Like, yeah, they look closely guarded. Sometimes that's just going to happen, but this is the thing. This offense can win in multiple ways, okay? Like, but you've got to have a guy that can do it. It can, you know, eat you up with a tight end in close coverage over the middle over and over and over again. It can get guys wide open. Whatever you're trying to do on defense, this offense has an answer. Uh, the flip side of that is that it asks a lot of its quarterback. And if you want to criticize the offense for that and say Jimbo's got to do something that maybe makes it a little easier for his quarterback, which I think is more what like a Lane Kiffin offense does, or what even Sark was able to do with a boatload of talent right here, last year with Alabama. All the motion makes things very easy. And that's fine if you want to criticize and say we've got to do more of that. But I'm tired of hearing about how old and antiquated Jimbo's offense is. Okay, it's not. It is extremely sophisticated. If you want to knock it for anything, it's for making it too hard on the quarterback to find the guys. But the answers are there. When Jimbo has a guy that can find the answers, he goes and has the highest scoring offense in the history of college football. Okay, um, so when he doesn't, it's going to be very frustrating. Kind of looks like what Georgia's offenses look like the entire Kirby Smart era, right? Um, it looks a lot like what you've seen this year, but I'm not prepared to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Jimbo's pulling in a ton of talent. He's going to continue to do that. I don't, this game didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things as far as that goes. So, I don't know. I'm just sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of hearing, that it's all Jimbo and the play calling and everything. All these guys are going to get criticized for play calling when it doesn't work. And I think that's too easy of a cop out for the fans to complain about.
Yeah, and here's where I'll go with that is that, yeah, you can design something to be more quarterback friendly. That's also more defense friendly.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The more dumbed down it is. And guess what? You don't need a fifth year senior to run this offense. Right? The most prolific offense that Jimbo ever ran had a freshman running. All right. And people need to check themselves. And I'll give them some advice. Go back and watch the spring game. Go back and watch Haynes King run this offense. Watch the formations. Watch the type of running plays we ran. Watch his decision making. And I'm going to tell you, it looked radically different. There's plays in there like what we saw last year against South Carolina, where the quarterback rolls right, stops, hammers one back over to the left side of the tight end who's wide open and walks into the end zone. And that kind of play was in the playbook in the spring with a quarterback that was mobile enough to pull it off and make the right reads and the right decisions. And you get your zone reads. There's a lot of different plays that were in that playbook that you can tell we've just backed off of because we don't have a guy that can execute it. And I thought Haynes in the spring game and even in that first week did a pretty decent job executing the offense, even behind an offensive line that was abysmal. Like in the spring game, he had no time whatsoever, but he was making very quick decisions and getting rid of the football and making the right reads. There were times within 2 to 3, 2 seconds of the snap, you could see the guy coming open. The ball's already on its way because he had read what the defense was doing. The defense dictated to Haynes which side of the field to work, and he's making the right throw. And he didn't have this rocket arm. Didn't always look pretty. And in the spring, a lot of guys drop passes too. Okay, so you know, I'm just trying to make the point. This offense is not what it's going to be with a different guy behind it. There's too much history that says otherwise, and
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to kind of think back to what it looked like when Mon really knew the offense well, to the point where he was comfortable making decisions. Like it operated efficiently. Like, somebody that I respect the hell out of from their playing days. Leone commented on, this thing needs an elite quarterback to function. No, it doesn't. Does not need an elite quarterback. Okay, because what's elite,
Oh,
right?
right.
Let's define what that is. Kellen Mond
Not to
was not
function
elite.
well enough to win this game. Let's
Yeah,
say
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well enough
Or
to
the
win a
Ole Miss
national
game.
championship. Maybe it needs an elite. Well, who doesn't?
Yeah.
And
Right.
what offense doesn't need that in the SEC? So, I'm tired of hearing about it. I think it's honestly why I'm over this season because
Yeah.
going into every game sort of expecting what we got. Hoping you don't, but expecting exactly what we saw. Because we haven't seen anything to indicate that Calzada was capable of doing what needs to be done in the offense.
Even when it was going well.
Even when it was
That's the
going
thing
well.
we pointing out. Even when it was going well, we weren't seeing it. And
Yep.
that's the frustration and that's the gripe. Um, we'll get to more of this later, but look, I fully expect Zach Calzada is going to be the third option next year. Okay, if that tells you anything, gosh, if he's even, but we won't. Um, but yeah, you're exactly right, and I want to go back to the play calling element a little bit too, because you said something about Jimbo, and I will say if there's a fair criticism of Jimbo, I kept hearing all week, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. And really we heard it before Ole Miss too, right? And the thing is Jimbo was never going to do that. Like he was never just going to be like, you know what, we're just going to ground and pound because that's just not who he is. And simplifying the offense to make it more quarterback friendly to a certain extent is just not who he is. Like this is his system. He's going to run it. He's going to ask a lot of his quarterback. Um, and if they stack the box, he's going to let them throw it. That's just what he's going to do. And so that's why we keep saying every week, you're going to be frustrated. If you want this to change, you're going to be frustrated. And at a certain point, you just have to trust Jimbo to get the guys and make it work. And that's really where we're at.
Yeah, because look around college football, everybody. What offense is is so great that any quarterback can run it with any level of talent and go out and win at a really high level. Who is it?
It's not Clemson's offense.
No,
It's not Alabama's offense either, apparently,
no,
that we're all so in love with. So, I mean,
it's not
obviously,
Florida.
that's a very, it's not Florida that you were also in love with last year. It's not Brian Harson's offense that, it's not Oklahoma, who's got quarterback and offensive line issues, and I think just lost the Bedlam game. Did I see that? Did they lose?
If they did, that would be
Right?
pretty spectacular, to be honest.
Yeah. I 14 seconds
Wow,
left.
they
They were
did.
driving.
They did lose.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. We've seen what's been going on with, the supposed boy genius up in Norman and what's been going on with their offense this year. That's been a lot of the frustration with the season because you can tell you're sitting there looking at Alabama losing tonight going, God dang it, the season was there. It was there and we couldn't take advantage of it. And I'm here to tell you with Haynes King, it looks very different this year. Now, I'm of the opinion that we lose to Alabama if we've got Haynes King because I think the season would have unfolded a little differently.
Yes.
I don't think we lose to Mississippi State or Arkansas with Haynes King, and I think that's kind of bad rolling into that Alabama game. But do you feel better if this team is, let's say, 10-2 with a loss to Alabama and maybe Ole Miss on the road?
Yeah, you do feel better.
Right. So,
Right. Hey, by the way, I'm going to point out that Lincoln Riley and his offensive genius mind, they actually got shut out on offense in the second half. All their points came on, I think, defensive plays.
yeah, or
They had a
rough
block,
punts.
yeah, like a fumble punt that they recovered
Safety.
in the end zone and a safety. So
Yeah.
no points against OSU in the second half
Defensive juggernaut.
with another Heisman hopeful, right, at quarterback. So
Two.
anyway,
Two
look,
Heisman front runners at
I mean,
quarterback.
you're so right though what you said earlier because we were very adamant back when King got hurt and what we saw against Colorado and then what we saw the following week. That man, would you take that 8-4? And
Yeah.
what's kind of crazy is that you look back on it and you go, wow, there was still so many missed opportunities. And certainly, you know, what happened early in the season, Arkansas, Mississippi State, um, were very, very forgettable efforts. I felt like the team kind of walked into a buzzsaw at Ole Miss, and then, thanks to Lane Kiffin's genius, let the A&M hold hang around in that game. We haven't even talked about that game. He did everything he
Yeah.
could.
Right.
He coached that game like he had to score 40 to win.
Yeah. And then he's got smart ass comments afterwards in the press conference saying that our offensive uh what
Pace of play,
tempo and pace
tempo.
of play was so helpful to them on defense after his supposedly, offensive juggernaut scored what actually like 17 points or something. No, it was less than that because we gifted them some points, you know, at home. Really, to your point, yeah, with his offensive stupidity at times led us back in the game when they could have, uh, put a boot on our throats. Yeah, I
They would
mean,
have nickled and dimed us. All they needed was 20, and they
yeah,
probably would have been fine on offense. But anyway, just pointing out again, like who do you want? You want Lane Kiffin as your offensive coordinator? Well, you want Lincoln Riley as your offensive coordinator? Yeah, I mean, guys, just look around college football and see what's going on. So I'm I'm just sick of the argument.
yeah, yeah. Look, like, Jimbo is not infallible. We're not here to tell you that. We we are here to tell you that he's the best option for this team,
Yeah,
and that we believe in what he's building, and that you're just gonna have to stay the course. He's not infallible. He's not perfect. Nobody in college football is, except maybe one guy. Um, but and look, yeah, I'm as frustrated as anyone about how the season's unfolded, and the funny thing is after this 8-4, and I think still likely 9-4. with a bowl win, but we'll see what happens. But you know, you're still going to get chirping out of Austin from that 5-17 because they have no shame and no self awareness, right? That's the most frustrating thing is we're gonna have to hear about it all off season, right? They're gonna convince themselves that their like fringe top 15 class is really, all Sark needs to turn it around. But let me just say something about that real quick because it's gonna be annoying. But if we had gone 10-2, and at that point finish in the top 10 probably again this year, right? They would have chirped just as loud. Because in the scenario we laid out before, it would have been, well, you still never beat Bama. Still, what have you done? What have you done? Still no division title. Still no conference title. Whatever. Like, that's never going to stop. So, just whatever.
Well, and
Look
you
at what
know
he's
that
building.
because listen to what their head coach is saying,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So you're right. And my God, man, I mean, if that's not indicative of a team of social media analysts and marketing guys in the back room telling this guy what to say
Man,
and
no
trying to
doubt.
come up with something to salvage this season, this just dog pile of the season. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time there. I'll tell you where I am. I don't know if concerned is the right word, uh, but Jimbo and this coaching staff are trying to close out the number one recruiting class in the country. They're trying to do that. And, I sat here a couple of weeks ago with the Auburn win and kind of said, I felt like that momentum was locked in after
Mhm.
that victory. Like it really didn't matter what happened after that. Uh, I don't know that I feel the same way about that. And I'm not saying, look, hey, recruiting's going to fall apart because that's not what's going to happen. This
No.
thing is going to end up with a top five class, probably top three.
Yeah.
But there's one or two guys,
Yeah.
real impact guys on the offensive side of the ball, where the
Hmm.
door is now open for those guys coming in and chirping.
Right.
Right? And that really frustrates me. I hope this staff can overcome that. I think Jimbo can, but one or two of them are likely to head elsewhere, and that just really pisses me off. Felt like if you
Yeah.
had one good showing against two pretty, I don't know, LSU's defense has played okay down the stretch. Ole Miss's is just nothing to brag about. There's plenty of points to be had on both, and we should have got them. And I just feel like
Yeah.
that would have gone a long way to locking some of these dudes up. They're going to pay off, 2, 3 years from now. But
Yeah.
whatever, you know,
Yeah.
we're going to end up
I
with some
think
elite talent in here.
we are. It's still probably going to be the best class in the kind of star ranking era of recruiting ever for A&M. And then, so certainly top five. I think we're probably going to finish like three. To your point, couple of good showings the last few weeks, and we could have got those guys like an Evan Stewart or a Banks, offensive lineman that probably would have we needed to challenge for the number one class and finish no worse than number two. At this point, we're probably going to finish three, and that's fine. You're talking about now three top five classes, 3 out of 4 recruiting classes for Jimbo Fisher uh, going into next season. You lose a guy like Clemens and Leal. The defensive line recruiting that we've been doing is ridiculous. So you're going to be replacing a guy like Leal with guys that are just as highly rated and just as likely to make an instant impact. So, and like I said earlier, the guy you're rolling out there at quarterback, if he's here next year, is going to be the third option. So this thing's still rolling in a very good direction.
And let's talk about that for a second, because I think you're right. Last season, Calzada was the third option. All right. Haynes King already passed him last season. He was the backup
Hmm.
quarterback. Um, I think you're right. He will be the third option on this team because Haynes King comes back, but Connor Wigman is going to be here.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've ever really spent much time talking about him. But for folks out there who do watch this show, go watch highlights of Connor Wigman. You haven't seen anything like what that kid is. Um, and I don't say that lightly. Uh, I'm not sure that I've seen a prototypical NFL-sized kid, right, in high school. Right, he's not like 215, 220. He's a little on the light side, but the frame is
Not yet.
there,
Right.
right? Not yet. But I've never seen one like that that can run as naturally as he can in
Uh-huh.
the open field. The hip movement at speed, the change of direction at speed, in that kind of a body is just exceptional. And then the ability to throw the football almost like a Mahomes, right? Like
Mm,
any angle, any type of throw. He's a creative guy. He seems to anticipate and see things happening on the football field that you don't see high school guys doing. You see high school guys run a system, and they've been doing it since they were 5 years old, and they're really good
right.
about distributing the football and running that system, and they've got this great arm. That's not what I see with him, man. I mean,
No.
I don't know. I just think that kid. I think he's going to come in here, and I'm not saying he's a challenge to start, but he's going to be your, no worse. He's going to be your number two option going into next
Yeah.
year if he gets here and puts in the work.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. He is going to be an early enrollee. So let's put this out there. But it's a little up in the air as to how much he's going to participate in spring ball
Right.
because he's also an elite baseball prospect. And so he,
Elite.
yeah. So will he play baseball for A&M in the spring instead? Who knows? Might depend on how he feels about his chances at the starting job in the fall. So
Right.
that'll be something to follow.
Yeah. He just, when I watch him play, he sees things, and I'm going, how did you see that? How did you see it that fast? And in a lot of ways reminds me of Jameis Winston, but I think he's a much better runner than Jameis Winston is.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I say interesting, but I think there's a lot of people that probably overrate Jameis's running ability a little bit. Not that it
Yeah,
wasn't
he
good, but
didn't
that
actually run the ball very much at Florida
he
State.
didn't.
People think he did, but he didn't.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. Um, we'll see. And I have something to say about that too, because I've heard a lot of talk about Jimbo's record after Jameis, right? And Jimbo running Florida State into the ground, which is hilarious since he left them a pile of top five recruiting classes. Nothing ran Florida State into the ground except for the hires of Willie Taggart and Jay Norvell or Mike Norvell or whatever. But anyway, um, and one thing it might be fair to criticize Jimbo for at Florida State is that after Jameis, he did seem to have trouble getting a quarterback in there. Francois was okay, but it never quite moved like it did against Jameis or with Jameis. And I think he's going to have two guys on the roster to choose from in the fall that are better than anybody he's had under him since Jameis. And so I think that'll be interesting to follow. Um,
So, Casey, how many? Because I just looked it up. I'm gonna let you guess. How many rushing yards did Jameis Winston have at Florida State in his 2 year career?
on his 2 year career, I'm going to
2 year
say
career,
I'm going to say 600.
600 yards. He had 284 yards
And it's oh
in his
wow,
career.
yeah,
His second season, so the year after they won the national title,
title,
he ran for 65 yards.
wow. Yeah. So, that's not
And
the main thing that Jimbo wants these guys to do. It's a nice to have. I think it would have been something you see. I think Haynes King would have ran for, more than 200 yards a year, right? But
yeah,
yeah, it'll be very interesting.
yeah, it will
But
be.
yeah,
Well, look, we've talked a lot about the quarterback play and everything else. We ought to spend some time on what the defense did tonight, and really what they've done all season in these losses, which is give up a bunch of damn points they shouldn't have given up early, and then
on big plays.
big plays. That is key. Big plays. Okay, 65-yard touchdown or 40-yard touchdown or what it is. They did it against Mississippi State. They did it against Arkansas. They did it again tonight. But then they turn it on and they start to overwhelm the other team's offensive line and
Hmm.
dominate the line of scrimmage, and they can't function. And that was certainly the case tonight until the very last drive.
Yeah, and look, I've got a lot of issues with the way the last drive was handled, and I'm not a coach
I
or
do
a
too.
defensive coordinator, but good God, the thing that immediately stuck out to me from the very first snap of that drive for LSU was why the hell is Michael Clemens on the left side of the line right now when he has been eating Ross Dellinger's lunch, the left tackle for LSU? Like he can't block him, he can't handle the size and strength of Clemens, and now when it's crunch time and we really need pass rush, we flip them and we put a guy, Tyree Johnson, on the left side or the right side against the left tackle. And when Tyree goes against Dellinger, Dellinger like swallows him up. Tyree's a skinny, rangy guy that relies on bend and quickness, and Dellinger, has it handled. I couldn't understand that. I hated the fact that we, tried to bring safety blitzes and whatnot when you're Clemens, Tyree, Liao, plus one dude. I mean, pick whoever you want as the fourth guy to just rush for. We're eating their lunch the entire second half, and we went away from it.
Yeah,
Um, that was
I think
extremely
if you
frustrating.
sat down with Mike Elko, he probably would have called a different defense on every single snap of the last drive, maybe every single one. And he got out pokered.
Yeah,
It just seemed like every single time it was the wrong call. We how many times have we gotten beaten in man down the sideline this season, and it came back to bite us again? I mean, that's three
yeah,
touchdowns on almost the
yeah,
exact same play.
yeah.
Against Arkansas down the sideline, against Mississippi State down the sideline. Tonight, same thing. Our best corner gets just shoved off the route,
Yeah,
and you know what? You're not going
it
to get
was
that
bad.
call
Ever. Yeah,
ever. But holy crap! Like they had to go 30 more yards in 30 seconds with no timeouts. So I don't. I just as soon as you see him sell it, and look, I don't know. Good throw because the kid was getting lit up as he let it go.
yeah, yeah.
Right? You're point 0.1 seconds from fourth down and 20. Maybe it wasn't there, man. It just and then after one of the worst officiating blunders I've seen this
Oh my
season, in a
God.
season in which we saw a ton, it just felt like, oh my God, they're just gonna figure out a way to make this happen, and so it did. But man, I don't know what to think about the defense. They at times just absolutely dominant, but never seem to show up to the game until halfway through the second quarter. Um, I mean, hell, that's the whole football team, but the defense is guilty of it too. It's just they had another level they could always seem to go to.
Right.
It's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens with that group next year. We already mentioned that. I mean, there's a lot of young talent, and there's a lot of young talent that's not playing a lot. So, we need some help in the secondary, that's for sure. But bummer,
Bummer. Yeah, I'm sorry
bummer.
this is such a crappy low energy show, but it is just a bummer. Um,
Oh man,
it's
we
also
have a
not
comment coming
unexpected.
in.
That's the thing.
We got a comment coming in saying might be the
Yeah,
worst loss I have witnessed. Well,
calm down. Calm
holy
down. Okay.
smokes! Welcome to Aggie football, because
Yeah.
man, we've seen some bad ones.
Yeah. I'm not sure how long you've been watching, but no, this is not even close.
Now,
So, but thanks for listening.
yeah, appreciate it. It's just not even
Yeah.
close,
No.
but we appreciate the comment. We've seen some bad ones out there.
No, but I, this is all, it's just a microcosm of the whole season. all of it. It was like the entire season condensed into one
It,
game. And if we are kind of low energy tonight because we totally expected it, and we've been kind of resigned to it for weeks now, even when we were beating the tar out of South Carolina, right?
yes,
And it wasn't battered Aggie syndrome or just pessimism. We're just looking at the game and looking at the way the team is playing, going, it's just not quite right. It's just not going to get it done. And we know we should get it done. So of course we go into the game with high hopes, but it is what it is.
damn it all to hell.
Now, same commenter says we need a new wide receiver coach. Might be the most disappointing group, and I think I agree. I don't know. How do you feel?
I would like to see a different coach with that group, and that's even based off a little bit of behind the scenes insider knowledge about this staff. That is the weakest link for more reasons than just coaching ability. And I don't know. I'd like to see us go in a different direction there. And
Mm.
I've probably said too much. But look, a disappointing year for
Fortunately,
that group.
nobody's listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's been a rotating group as well all season because of injuries. I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
ridiculous. Every time we finally get that deep threat, they're gone, right? And there hasn't been enough guys to backfill that, so that is the fault of the position coach and the recruiting wins or losses, I guess what I should say. Um, a lot of drops. But again, I don't know what to think about
Yeah.
the drops when you don't have rhythm,
Right.
and you fight all game to get rhythm. And I think it's hard being a wide receiver, getting open play after play after play after play, and it's not happening. And then all of a sudden, here comes one. I don't know how much that affects that group, but it's got to have some impact.
I don't know, man. Look, I that's kind of the life of a wide receiver
Yeah,
at
you're
any
right.
school is that, you run, run, run. Even dudes that are like elite and dominating games, right? You look at their stat line and they got like 8 catches for 120 yards or something. Eight out of how many snaps? You know?
Yeah,
So, but to that guy's points, yes, it's not just the rotation, which I personally put on Jimbo. I know even Jimbo has kind of said that he doesn't necessarily set the rotation, but I don't buy that. I think he's the head coach, and so if he's not setting it, he's empowering somebody else to do it, and that just doesn't make any sense to me. He can come in at any point and say, "I don't like this. I want this. Let's go in this direction." So I put that 100% on Jimbo. I will say this though about the wide receiver group and let's say the skill guys in general, man. Because Moose obviously had a breakout game against Prairie View. We saw him come in because of an injury early in the season and make that awesome grab in the corner of the end zone. He had a breakout game last week against Prairie View, and that guy just looks different playing the position. He looks like the dude that's the son of a NFL All Pro. He just looks different, and Yul Keith Brown just looks different, and Armani Daniels just looks different. And there's something about those guys that like that is where we're getting to with the back to back to back recruiting classes. That frankly, at the very beginning, we're a little bit light on the elite skill guys, but like that's what happens when you stack those many classes together. You have guys like that on your team, and Yul Keith with the massive big run that was on like a jet sweep or something, right, or on a reverse. Like he's just got different speed. The chain's got different level of speed. Armani Daniels does, Moose does. These guys are just different, and that's the difference of Jimbo. So eventually, that sort of thing catches up to you, and like if no matter how frustrated you are with Jimbo and how he runs the program, like you almost can't overcome your own talent level to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Like it
yeah,
just going to start happening, like just like it's happening at Georgia. You know, like
exactly.
Kirby has
Well,
just stacked and stacked and stacked the recruiting classes, and eventually, and frankly, he's still got offensive troubles, but it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah,
he hasn't been able to find the quarterback to make it all go. But if he
yeah, because
does, that team's
I
scary as hell.
yeah, because I would argue Georgia's had a first round talent at wide receiver for what feels like a decade,
Right.
right? And it still
That's
hasn't
true.
seemed to matter for whatever reason. But yeah, because like what you said, quarterback, right? Not just elite quarterback play.
Yeah. And when he did
Anyway,
get one, he ran them off. So, you know, look,
yeah,
no
look,
coach is perfect.
I think there's some dudes on this roster that can catch the ball and make plays. I think they absolutely can, and it's going to take some seniors moving on, evidently. But they started to get their shot down the stretch. Nobody can say Demas didn't get his shot this year. He certainly had big opportunities, and didn't really make enough of those opportunities before getting hurt. But some of these younger guys they're pushing, they're coming. And I do think you'll see A&M participate in the transfer portal in the wide receiver space. And that will be a place where some changes happen. But again, I think there needs to be a new voice there. I do. So one change I would want to see on the coaching staff. And the only change.
I would agree. And hopefully we can move things around and make some room for Rashad Samples. I think that would be a great addition from SMU, now TCU staff, but I think we might see some additions, might see him move around after the bowl games, but we'll see. But I agree that's the only change I would like to see made. I'd like to see definitely all the continuity on the defensive coaching staff. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, look, I don't know what's going to happen with a bowl game and all that, but I'm sitting around waiting for December 10th when all of these top recruits are here, and let's get that thing locked down, and then let's get to the frickin' spring, man. That's what it feels like to me because it felt like you come into the season ranked number 6, right? Number 6,
Yeah.
okay, and you needed two things to happen. You needed Haynes King to be good.
Hmm.
Not you didn't need him to be great. You needed to be good. And you needed your offensive line to gel early. Okay. That's what everybody said. Even those that were ranking the Aggies that high, those are the two concerns. Well, neither one of those things actually played out. Okay. And you lose your quarterback, and then all of the issues you had on the offensive line from an injury standpoint, it was a complete work in progress for the first half of the season. For the first half, uh, in college football world, whatever, man. Let's look to next season and hope you pulled it together enough, put together something decent. And guess what? You did go 8-4. You didn't go 5-7. You didn't go whatever Florida went and your head coach gets fired. All right, after going to the Cotton Bowl the year before, they barely missing out on the playoff. Right? Like, I think people understand all the things that happened to this football program this year, and we're still actually at 8-4. Like we said, we would have taken it. And we're still frustrated because it could have been 9-3. It even could have been 10-2 with the way some of those
Yeah.
games went. Do you guys? I think people need to understand what that's Jimbo.
Right.
Okay, that you were able to scratch and claw together something out of what was really chaos early on in the season, and not go down this culture destroying slide down the mountain.
Right. And you know what? And I should I want to piggyback on that because we are not in the ACC or the Big 12 or the Pac 12. And so you've got to understand, like, what Texas and these OU, they don't get it. They don't understand what they're walking into. And this is it. And the margin for error is so slim and that it doesn't matter that you're the more talented team or even the better coached team. Like none of these are gimmies, except maybe Vanderbilt and Missouri, right? But like every other week, they are taking their toll. They are going to make you earn it. They all have dudes across the defensive line that are, you know, 200, 300 pounds on the interior and 275 on the outside, and they will make you work for it. And they want it. And they have a lot of pride in it. And their crowd is loud and their stadium is big. And it is never easy in this conference. And so that's why you see these teams like a lot of churn, and only Alabama is the one that's able to sustain it year after year after year. And a guy like Gene Chizik can go win a title and it falls off a cliff because anytime you fall off a little bit, you might still be better on paper, but they smell blood. And after 12 games in this conference or 8 conference games, it takes its toll, and you can't win them all if you're not light years better than everybody else on your schedule. You just can't. And that's what happened to Edo. It's what happened to Chiswick. It's what eventually happened to whoever was after Chiswick.
Dan
I can't
Mullen.
remember. Yeah, to Dan Mullen, right? After he, you know, I mean, it's so hard here. And so for all of that crap to happen, that didn't happen to any other team in the conference, right? Like their coach just biffed it away. This guy like scratched and clawed his way to 8-4 and had a really good chance at 10-2. So look, man, yeah, I mean, it sucks to say that. Yeah, we'll just wait till next year, or to kind of give up 2/3 of the way through the season because every single one of these is precious and the off season is so long. But that's just kind of where we're at. It's kind of how we feel. It's how we felt for a few weeks.
It is, but look, we got some people out there listening, and I think they should be excited about where it's going. Okay, because guess what? The whispers around Athens for the last 3 to 4 years was, well, when's Kirby actually going to win something, right? And well, here that guy is, poised to go into the playoff with in the number one spot, and no worse than probably the number three spot. Okay, depending on what they do against Alabama, which by the way, I think they're gonna freaking pop Alabama in the mouth. Okay, I mean we'll see, but it's that defense is elite. Do you guys know why it's so elite? Do we know why
Recruiting,
is it elite? Casey, why?
recruiting. I just said it.
Recruiting.
Sorry, were you not?
They
Oh,
just kept increasing
yeah.
the level of talent that they brought into that program to where they're basically more talented, or at least as evenly talented as Alabama, which is pretty nutty uh, to say. We are about to sign that level of class. Okay? Jimbo has fought every year to increase the level of talent that comes into this program. And he is an elite recruiter, and this staff has proven to be elite. And I'm just telling you guys, our best days are ahead of us. And people want to cut bait on some things. They want things to change,
Hmm.
right? The way that Jimbo operates, garbage, garbage. Okay.
You know, and let me say something else about that too, because yeah, because you say that and people are like, well, A&M's always recruited well, right?
No,
Did you hear that crap? No, we haven't. Not like this.
no,
Nobody's recruited like this. And yeah, so I get sick of hearing that. Um, and look, it's hard. It's hard in this conference. It's harder than it's ever been because of the guy in Tuscaloosa to like really break through at the top. So this thing where we all expected, or some people expected, right? The duality of the media and A&M's expectations are crazy, right? They hired Jimbo, and well, now they expect him to win a title, which all of us were just going like with like in 3 or 4 years, right? And all of us are just like whatever. Like eventually, we only expect it to happen in 3 or 4 years, and now we're in year 4 and he hasn't done it. And the only ones really complaining about it or pointing it out are the people in the media. A&M fans are like, there's a lot of frustration, but everybody's looking at the direction of the program, going, beat Alabama. He's raised our talent profile. Quarterback's not very good. This wasn't really the plan. We've cobbled it together. We're headed in the right direction. So this is unprecedented, people. We can't stress that enough. The class we're going to sign, it's unprecedented at Texas A&M.
It is. This is how ridiculous it is. There is still a path. There's still a path to sign the best recruiting class in history, not just at A&M, in history. Okay, better than the class I think Alabama signed 2 years ago, 2 cycles ago. That's mind blowing. Okay, so everybody sit back. Let's see what happens, and let's go back to work. Can't wait to see what happens with the football team. Okay, I'm just over the product I've seen this year.
Right.
I'm just worn out by it.
Yeah,
because we saw it coming and hoped that it wouldn't keep playing out in front of us the way it has. But so we'll see. All right, man. We've been at it long enough. We need to put the people out of their misery and put ourselves out of our misery. Maybe we'll watch some championship game next week, and then we'll find out where we're going to go bowling, and we'll be back for that. How about that?
sounds
all right.
good.
Ags lose. Downer. Awkward wave.